What is up, my Lorcana Goons, and welcome back to the Lorcana Goons channel. My name is Kevin. We're joined here with Zach Stone for our Monday weekly Meta Watch video. Every Monday, Zach Stone and I go over meta trends, your deck list from the weekend, and we're even going to practice some of these deck strategies at the end of this video. So if you like this content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to support the Lorcana Goons channel. But Zach, take a look at this. Inkdex.com is where we usually go to get these deck lists, kind of keep track of the meta. They've updated their Reign of Jafar metagame tier list over here, with Amber Steel being at the top. This is more of a blanket color combo tier list, right? Because there's multiple different ways you can play Amber Steel. Whether or not you're playing Whole New World or Amber Steel aggro, it feels like Amber Steel is not only the most popular deck, but probably one of the most powerful decks, with a bunch of decks having probably the best conversion rate right into the top 8s, followed by Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst, and Emerald Amethyst with a kind of a tier 2 position right there. How are you feeling about this?
You know, it's pretty interesting that Ruby Am and Emerald Amethyst aren't even close to, or barely even close to the meta share of Amber Steel. You know, it seems that Amber Steel is pretty much dominating as far as like popularity and conversion rate into top 8 success. And that's pretty much due to Rhino. I think Rhino is the carry card in that whole factor there. That card is such a strong body, and for the fact that you can shift it, be able to sing your songs like Let the Storm Rage On or Then Along Came Zeus and get rid of some threats that early is ridiculous. And it does require some people to build around, and Amber Steel can just do Amber Steel things and just go wide, and they can drop a lot of bodies that are hard to deal with. And Pete, just a god card.
I agree. Amber Steel, in my opinion, has been the best deck of the format. I do feel like that Emerald Amethyst tier could be maybe even a tier 1, because I feel like it sometimes is a little bit more consistent in terms of making it to top 8 than, say, something like Ruby Amethyst, right? But these are just the color combinations. We're going to go over some deck lists that you guys dropped in our Discord. So huge shout out to everyone who's part of the Lorcana Goons Discord. If you guys want to be part of the Discord, go ahead and join by clicking the link down below. But we're going to start off with this Amber Steel deck list by Mick Philly. Huge shout out to Mick Philly for making it to top 8 of his Reign of Jafar set championship with this Amber Steel song deck. Now, we're going to go over a lot of decks because a lot of you dropped your deck lists in our Discord, and we're really excited to talk about these very briefly. Amber Steel songs, we know what this deck does. You want to play all your characters on the board and start singing Whole New World, Along Came Zeus, or maybe even 3 copies of this Grab Your Sword.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see Grab Your Sword in this meta again. But with all the Amethyst and all the Emerald coming into play, and pretty much no way to deal with ward characters, it does make sense. And the return of the Gaston is a great card to see.
Huge shout out to Josiah Patrizo over here for making it to top 8 of their Reign of Jafar 1K/set championships. Another Amber Steel deck. We have a couple Amber Steel decks to go over, actually, Zach, because there's a couple different ways you can play this deck, right? You're either playing something like Whole New World right here. As you can see, you combo this off with Ariel, your Singer 5s, or even something like Prince Naveen. Very, very strong. I'm liking that we're seeing Namari consistently in these Amber Steel song lists. And again, I got to give credit to Ed Chu, because Ed Chu was playing 4 copies of that in his World's Amber Steel lists.
Yeah, no Grab Your Swords in this one, but we are seeing the standard copies of the Singer packages as well as some Piglet.
And from Team Quest Kids, a huge shout out to Melinda, aka Me Lee, over here for getting top 8 with, I believe she took it down, first place with Amber Steel Hamster Wheel. Huge shout out. We're all very excited over here from the Lorcana Goons. Huge shout out to Quest Kids, Jonathan Rosario, Melinda, everybody involved over there. You guys are awesome members of the community, and I'm really glad to see you take down a set championship, because I know how long you've been playing Amber Steel. Zach Stone, I'm sure you know too, that Amber Steel is her deck. She's been playing it, I want to say, since I've met her.
Yes, I remember even helping her play at Vegas at our friend's house. We were going over some lines, and later that event, she came up to me and was like, "I won a game because of what you taught me." So really much shout outs to you, Melinda. Congrats, and we're happy you took it down. And shout outs to Team Quest Kids.
Oh yeah, they practice a lot. I know you guys are very committed to wanting to, be some of the best in the community. I do want to highlight some cards here. Ariel Sonic Warrior, very strong. No copies of Namari in this list, but instead copies of Ms. Bianca, which is interesting because my cousin, who also won a set champs last week, Chris, member of Team Goons, also played this kind of Ms. Bianca Ariel Sonic Warrior package, right? And I do want to highlight the Grab Your Swords and the 1 copy of Cinderella Stout-Hearted. Sometimes when this card lands on the board against Steel mirror matches, or especially Amber Steel matches, it kind of can steal the game for you, from my experience.
And now we have another Amber Steel list. This one's not a Steel song list. This one's going to be more mid-range. However, we do have some singers in here. This is Justin, aka Ace Flight, and he took down his set champs at Wild Card Cyclone. And honestly, I know the feeling. I took down their set champs during set 3, and it's good to see Amber Steel coming in and taking this one down too. And it is an interesting deck list. We have the Daisies, and then you have Forgotten Me's here. So we're looking to rip some cards out of the hand, and I like that a lot.
That those cards are very strong. When I saw You Have Forgotten Me in this list, my first thought was, ooh, I got to try this out before it gets rotated, because it's a card from set 1. It's a card from set 1. Maybe this Daisy Duck, we've been sleeping on. But huge shout out to everybody from the Wildcard Cyclone community. That is one of our local game stores. More and more Amber Steel decks, Zach Stone. We have one here by Jacob Knight, a mid-range aggro. Huge shout out to JD. JD is actually a Lorcana Goons channel member, so huge shout out to JD. And I believe Saucy took this deck list as well. Who is in our Discord, member of Team Goons, and took it to his set champs. Both players doing very, very well. I think Saucy managed to finish in about top 8 or top 4. JD was first in Swiss after he was like 6 wins and 2 draws with this Amber Steel mid-range aggro list. I love the addition of Goofy, the groundbreaking chef, in this deck list. This is a great way to heal up your Smees. You quest with your Smee, you deal some damage on there, and then by turn 4, if you don't have Rapunzel, you can heal it up with your Goofy instead and make sure he stays ready.
Yes, we got all the 1-drops you would need, 12 of them, and you gotta admit, Goofy be serving up me some pancakes over there.
Here we have a deck titled Small Milestones by Atlantine. A huge shout out you, and thank you for dropping this list in our Discord, making top 8 of their Reign of Jafar set championship with another Amber Steel Rhino mid-range kind of deck. I like the addition of Penny in this deck. A great way to give resist to some of your characters. Maybe you want to make sure your Smee doesn't take any damage, right? You can combo this off with Smee at the end of the turn. You don't have a captain, so Smee's going to have resist after you played the Penny, and you won't take damage there, which is kind of cool. Also, one of my favorite plays is using Lady Family Dog to play out a Penny or a 2-cost character like Piglet. Love seeing 4 Piglet in this deck because a lot of Ruby Sapphire is still existing in the current meta, and sometimes you open up the right curve of Daisy, Piglet, maybe a Baloo, and game might be over.
Yeah, we're not playing 4 copies of Rhino. We're only playing 3, but we are playing the Rapunzel's Tower, so we can make sure our characters are a little more sticky. All right, and moving on from the Amber Steel lists, we have Emerald Amethyst. Vinath with the 101 Birds deck list over here, taking down their set champs, I believe. And yeah, it's very clean, very standard. I do gotta ask, if you're able to drop down in the comments below, why only 3 Merlin Crab and not 4? I feel like that card is pretty much a 4 of in my Emerald Amethyst lists. And I'm seeing Kit Cloud Kicker, which is pretty good right now, into the mirror mat.
Kit's a very strong card. I personally really like Kit right now in this meta, especially against some of the Amethyst deck lists. Overall, I think a lot of the Amethyst strategy kind of revolves around using Genie, Elsa's, Peter Pan, Shadowfinders, and sometimes Kit alone can just bounce all those cards to the hand. Playing a Kit back-to-back can kind of solidify the tempo in your favor. What I really want to mention, though, is that they are playing 20 different birds in this deck. We have the 16 Diablos and 4 copies of Iago, the giant spectral parrot, as our 5th bird, actually. And this card's really strong. I know it's an illusion character, so it does lose out to any action, but overall, there's just not that many low-cost actions that you can really just play willy-nilly against this Iago. So most of the time, it generates a lot of value, or just a big body to be able to swing into any problematic characters on the opposing side of the board. Next up, we have another Emerald Amethyst list by Anthony King. He titles this Panic at the Diablo. I very much enjoy this name. This list looks a little bit different, right? A little bit less emphasis on birds, so we're not playing the 4 copies of Iago. Instead, we're playing some discard engine in this deck, right? The last list we looked at didn't have cards like Prince John or Sudden Chill, and that's what I really love about the Lorcana meta right now, or even just the overall game, is that you can have the same color combination, right? But you can have 2 entirely different strategies. We have the discard engine. We're still seeing the very powerful strategies of pull the lever, wrong lever combo, but look at this. 1 copy of Bend to My Will, a 7-cost card that says each opponent discards all the cards in their hand. It's pretty nice. Some people even say it's kind of like reverse beat prep. You're beat prepping the opponent's hand instead of the board.
Yes, it's definitely powerful, especially since you have some removal tools like wrong lever, and of course Elsa to be able to get rid of some bodies. But that hidden cove to be able to take your 2 strength characters to 3 strength and protect them from Sisu has got to be really good. And shout outs to you, Anthony, and the whole Colorado Lorcana community.
I want to mention real quick where we forgot to talk about the panic in this deck, right? 3 copies of the 4 cost panic. This card has 2 strength, 3 willpower. He can quest for 2, so don't underestimate that part. It has an ability that says when you play this character, you may move up to 2 damage counters from a chosen character to another chosen character. It's a slightly lower cost version of Bell the Accomplished Mystic. I feel like Bell is pretty good though because you can move 3 damage counters, and that's a clean way to out something like a rhino, a shift rhino, right? But there are also scenarios where you can use the panic to shift damage onto a shift rhino, and that rhino no longer has resist, right? Any character with 2 willpower or less is going to be a clean target for this panic. Zach, who do we have up next? Go ahead and introduce us the next Lorcana player.
Here we have Sailor from Team Maelstrom and a Worlds competitor. So this is his bread and butter. And again, taking down their set champs, going completely 14-0 in games, not dropping a single game. It's Red Blue Sharks. And of course, we got to mention the Merlin's Carpet Bag that DKP played in his World Champs list that is seeming to make a splash in all the Red Blue decks now. And this 1 copy of Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, we're finally seeing the 1 copy of the Mali Dragon for those nice single target removal.
I do want to mention he's playing Super Goof, which we didn't necessarily see, I believe, in the World Championship DKP list, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong, though, but Super Goof, very strong in this meta against Amber Steel decks right now. If there is an opposing Smee that hasn't been healed, that hasn't been hit by a penny, Super Goof can clear it very effectively. You can ramp into it. You're gaining lore at the same time. You play 3 copies of it, so later on in the game, it's a card your opponent has to respect, right? So if you're very close to that, like, 15 lore kind of area, a Super Goof plus a Pirate's Life with a Shark might just get you there. I gotta mention King Lee, who also took down a set championship with pretty much the exact same list. Maybe they even saw Sailor's post on Twitter. So if you're not following some of these great Lorcana players, we're going to put the links in the description down below, as well as their deck list that they've been doing well with. But once again, huge shout out, King Lee. Thank you so much for dropping this deck list in our Discord. And congrats on taking down a set championship. A lot of these Ruby Sapphire decks are going to be looking very similar. Huge shout out Colin Masters with his Stealing Steven Schmidt's Shark setup deck. Wow, try saying that 5 times fast. So, Ruby Sapphire, very similar. The only difference from this list and Sailor's list is that one Hades is now a Maleficent Dragon, right, Zach Stone? And Hideaway got replaced by Carpetbag. There we go. How do you feel? How do you feel about Ruby Sapphire right now?
Steven Stealing Schmidt Sparks Carp. I can't do it either, Kevin. You're right. Yeah. So this is pretty much a standard Ruby Sapphire Shark deck. And it's good to know that rotation is going to make a lot of these cards change. So it's going to shake things up for sure. Steven Schmidt Shark Steven Schmidt Shark Saddle. Steven Schmidt Shark.
Okay, moving on. Austin Bierman cooking up some spice and getting a top 8 with their Ruby Amber Racer deck. Huge shout out. We're finally getting to some spice, more spice, right, in this deck, Zach Stone, in this deck list video. Set 8 champs racers. Look at this. We have a lot to talk about. We have a variety of racers like Taftia, Mount Fudge, and the Shift Fudge, which will let you gain. Actually, there is no Shift Fudge in this deck. You are not playing the Shift Taftia. You're just playing the 1 cost and the 2 cost because they're racers. You're actually not shifting them. You're not playing any locations, which is very interesting. Wow, I would have thought that you're playing locations in this deck because, you gain lore from some of those. But instead, we're taking advantage of the King Candies. It's what it's looking like. Zach Stone, I know you were very fond of this 4-cost King Candy, the Royal Racer. He's a 4-cost uninkable 2 strength, 2 willpower that says whenever one of your other racers is banished, each opponent chooses and banishes one of their own characters. Very interesting. He quests for 2, so he's a pretty threatening body on board if you let him survive, right? And he's going to be able to play around cards that have ward, right?
That is 100% true, and don't forget we are playing Teeth and Ambitions that allows us to get rid of our racers, but that Wreck-It Ralph is also going to give any of our racers extra 4 strength that turn, so they can turn into some pretty hefty bodies and take out some big threats. And there's a lot of draw power in this deck with that Rapunzel.
Dude, I really like this deck. This is pretty cool. We have a Gloyd Orange Boar as well, the 3-cost up here that we saw in the World Tournament being played by Zach Bivens. This is a racer that says when you play this character, each opponent loses 1 lore and you gain 1 lore. So there is a little bit of aggression kind of going on here. You can burst lore with your 7-cost Wreck-It Ralph, with your Gloyd Orange Boar. You can grab cards back from your discard pile with your 3-cost King Candy. So let's say you're not even drawing cards off your Rapunzel. You still have some decent recursion with cards like King Candy to grab back characters from your discard pile. I'm surprised they're not playing the other action, Candy Drift. Candy Drift, thank you. I'm surprised they're not playing Candy Drift. I think Candy Drift is so good. It's such a good card. It gives you Racers +4 strength. You draw a card. It's only a 2 cost. Very similar to this Wreck-It Ralph ability, but it's an action instead. I like this deck a lot. Huge shout out Austin Bearman. Dude, I want to try this out later. This looks really fun.
And here we have Wonderful's deck list. You know, this deck list is quite an interesting deck. It's very large in capacity, and we've had to shrink ourselves down to be able to talk about it. But I do like his list a lot. I've gotten to play this against Kevin on our live stream. You do check that out on our previous live stream videos where we go over some gameplay and some matches, talking about what decisions we're making. But this is Wonderful's list. He is a Mufasa enthusiast, and honestly, after playing with it, it does feel really nice. A lot of synergy with that Chef Goofy, and it does take a lot to deal with when you get to build your board. That's for sure.
One Goofy is a little surprising to me because I feel like when we played Zach, this card was just running me over. You know what I mean? It was the reason why I couldn't touch your characters. But once again, Wonderful, one of the masters of the Mufasa strategy. I do wonder where Amber Ruby is going to land post-rotation. Maybe they'll give us Mufasa again. Who knows? Who knows? But taking down a Reign of Jafar set championships must feel pretty good one last time, you know, for the old Mufasa deck. These Ruby Amber decks are really cool, in my opinion, because you use a variety of characters. Like, they feel very much like toolboxy, you know what I mean? We have a list here by Alexa Dubs, taking it down with a Ruby Amber Mufasa strategy, but only one copy of Mufasa this time. We have some actions in here like Brawl, Invited to the Ball. Maybe you kind of want to remove some characters that are problematic, like some evasive characters and stuff. But look at all these characters, Zach Stone. We're able to utilize cards like Pongo, which is a 3-cost character. Every turn you can pay 2 ink to look at the top card of your deck, and if it's a character, you get to keep it, right? Invited to the Ball does something very similar. Most of the time, you're going to reveal 2 characters from Invited to the Ball, so it ends up being a 2-cost character that essentially lets you add 2 characters to your hand. So we also have a variety of Rayas in this list. A 4-cost Raya that can quest for 2, that lets you re-ready your own characters, and then a 3-cost Raya that says whenever this character challenges another character, gain 1 lore for each other damaged character you have in play. And that seems pretty nice if you play Mother Gothel, Card Soldiers, or even this Prince John, this uninkable 3-cost Prince John, 5/5, 3-cost. Whenever your opponent plays a character, he loses 1 damage, but that doesn't matter in a deck like this, you know, because you're going to heal it with Rapunzel anyway.
Yeah, and I do want to mention that one copy of that Radagon, that is from the Rise of the Floodborn set, and it does allow you to exert a 3-cost or less character your opponent controls and re-ready one of your own characters that can no longer quest for the rest of the turn. But with all the damage cards you have, like Super Goofy, you can challenge again and gain some lore, or you can swing again with the Shift Mulan, the Elite Archer, and get rid of a lot of the board presence your opponent may have. So yeah, where you like seeing Amber Ruby lists come out the board work, but I do want to mention again, rotation is going to shake a lot of things up. There are so many cards in this deck that are from sets 1 through 4.
One of my favorite color combinations is Ruby Amethyst, right? And post-rotation, same thing. A lot of cards might leave us, you know, no longer there's a lot of 1-cost characters that might get rotated out. Chernobog's Followers, Magic Brooms, cards like these. So I am curious to see what a deck like Ruby Amethyst is going to look like in the future, right? Because right now, the trend seems to be playing Peter Pan Shadowfinder plus Maui Half Shark. In my opinion, I feel like Maui Half Shark has way less powerful or oppressive targets in this deck rather than something like Ruby Sapphire, right? But overall, it's still an oppressive card. You can play this on turn 6, and your opponent has to decide, am I going to give my opponent an extra friends on the other side, an extra Pirate's Life maybe, or am I just going to have to sit here and wait for him to, you know, either turn his shark sideways or generate more value over time, right? So that's what I like about this deck in particular. Do want to give a huge shout out to iGoblin for making it all the way to top 8 with the Ruby Amethyst, and 1 copy of Genie, the Supportive Friend, a 4-cost uninkable, 3 strength, 5 willpower that says whenever this character quests, you may shuffle this card into your deck to draw 3 cards. I actually like this card. It's a pretty neat way to add some extra draw power into your deck.
Yeah, you know, I do want to kind of bring up that like Pirate's Life is just enough with Maui Shark. I think that being able to check the board and the strategy of Pirate's Life Shark decks is just to kind of like allow you to gain as much lore as you can gain without winning the game, because I will bring that lore back down and I will check your board with my shark. And this deck does that well.
Next up, we have a Blurple deck list by Salvador Gonzalez over here. Anti-meta Blurple, specifically, actually. Love the way this looks. We have 2 copies of Rafiki, the 4-cost Rafiki, 1 strength, 4 willpower. This character has Rush and Challenger +4, but only when you play this character. So it's going to be on the turn it's played, not after. But it doesn't matter, because after that, you could just keep questing with this guy, or you could even potentially bounce it back with your Madam M Fox and play it again later.
I do want to mention that it quests for 2, so being able to stick on the board can apply a lot of pressure, but you have a lot of other ways to check the board. You have 3 copies of Hades and 1 Big Elsa, 2 Monstro, and the 1 Into the Unknown.
I kind of like how Into the Unknown was like a 4 of immediately in the beginning of the format, and it kind of dwindled away a little bit. It kind of fell off, for lack of a better term, right? But you know what hasn't fallen off, Zach? Tamatoa Popsicle Bell combo. I think Tamatoa Popsicle Bell, that's going to stick around at least until the end of the format, because Popsicle is a set 2 card. I wonder what Sapphire is going to do without their precious Popsicles. Popsicle being so popular, it's even one of the main engines in this Sapphire Emerald deck list by Fat Ninja, who ended up in top 8 of their Reign of Jafar set championships. We did see a lot of Emerald Sapphire items being piloted at the World Championship, but that was more of like it felt like an OTK deck, right? Like a deck where you set up a million items with Oswald, and then you played a big Tamatoa and you quested for 20 in 1 turn. This strategy looking way different. We do have some very small item synergy with the 4 Popsicles and the 1 Tamatoa Happy as a Clan, but outside of that, no other items. Looking like we're going more of a song strategy here with Muses. We have plenty of songs to generate the value off these Muses, like Heffalumps and Woozles. Mother Knows Best, You're Welcome, How Far I'll Go, and Under the Sea. One of the best songs in the game right now to be able to board wipe. And you're only playing 1 because there's a world where you play Lady Tremaine on turn 6 and just grab it back anyways.
Yeah, I do want to also bring up that there's Kita and Donald Duck, the Flustered Sorcerer, in this list. Kita being able to get you an additional card in your Inkwell, and knowing the top card of your deck in case you do play Donald Duck means you know the card you inked with it. And that's going to net you an extra 2 ink that turn, and you can accelerate pretty high and get your Clarabelles or your big Basils down pretty early.
That's really cool. Yeah, I do want to point out, Zach, that is the focused Flatfoot, not the Sorcerer. But yeah.
Ooh, that's right.
Yes,
that's
but
right.
Donald Duck, yeah, great card though. One of my favorite cards. I think what I really like about it is that like if you end up ramping like off this curve right on like turn 5, you can already play a shift Clarabelle without shifting. You can play a 7-cost Clarabelle like really early, and sometimes that can be like the end of the game because you draw into Bend to My Will and then you smack that the next turn, game feels over.
I'd also like to bring up there's not too many cards that are getting rotated out in a deck like this, so who knows? Is blue-green going to see its time during the rotation meta?
What I really like about Set Champ season, Zach Stone, is that we see a lot of people kind of bring out their spice for this tournament. Here we have a Illusion Wheel deck by Boofy Fish, top 8 Set Championships, Reign of Jafar season with a Jafar deck. Wow, multiple copies of Jafar in this deck. We have the 2-cost Jafar, which will gain evasive on your turn. It's a 3-strength character. Then we have the 3-cost Jafar. This is the Aspiring Rival. He's going to give your character Challenger +2 on play, and he can quest for 2 every turn. So I think in a deck like this, especially if you're going more of the Jafar line, you can afford to play this card over something like Crab. It's not the same, definitely not the same, because that 3 strength is very important, but questing for 2 is pretty good. Having a Jafar target that you can shift on turn 5 for your striking illusionist is very powerful, because if this card's exerted, whenever you draw a card, you're going to gain 1 extra lore, and that's the combo. It's the Wombo combo, the 1-2. You shift Jafar, you sing Whole New World, he's exerted, you draw 7 cards, and bam, you gain 7 lore. But now you have just so many Jafar shift targets in this deck. You have the 4-cost newly crowned Jafar. He also quests for 2 during an opponent's turn. Whenever one of your illusion characters is banished, you may return that card to your hand instead. Not too shabby. In terms of illusions, we have the Iago, Giant Cobra, but looking like it's mainly just those.
Yeah, I also think too that this is very well themed for the Reign of Jafar set champ season, and actually a real Jafar deck. So shout outs to you. I know that you were from the Southern California area and visited Ninja Exchange and had to move, but it's glad to see that you're taking it down wherever you're at.
And here we have another Amethyst Steel deck list from Create, who got first place at their Reign of Jafar set championships. We've actually had him on the channel, aka Rip Lungs, if you could, for those of you who remember. A very strong player in the Lorcana community. I like Amethyst Steel right now. Very strong deck, Zach. It's kind of like you mentioned with the Shark strategy. You kind of just want to gain small increments of lore over time, right? Because towards the end of the game, once you're at 10 to 12 lore, every single character you play, like Giant Cobra, Merlin Goat, White Rose, they seem very, very threatening once you're past past that 10 lore mark. And then even 2 questers are very powerful towards the end of the game. You have Sami, you have Genie. These are very threatening characters. This deck can just end the game fairly quickly. You got to have the 4 Cobras and the Merlin for that reason, because most of the time, in my opinion, Merlin Goat counts for 3 lore, right? You play Goat, that's 1 lore. You can quest with him, that's 2. And then he either gets banished or you bounce him with a snake or something. No dock in this list. I want to mention that, right? There's no dock. We're just playing rabbits and friends as our draw engine.
Yeah, it's going to be Merlin Goat and Merlin Rabbit for Raw, unless they do see the reprints in the Fabled set for the competitive constructed. However, they can always play in the Infinity format. But Purple Steel, got to be a good deck to play in the remainder of the set 8 set champ. So if you guys have been thinking about playing this, just know that some people are still able to take it down with some good old mid-range Amethyst Steel.
And last but most definitely not least, we want to give a huge shout out to Solo Falcon, who was just this close to making it into top 8 of their set championship, getting 9th place with their Naveen in New Orleans deck. Now, I know we normally only feature the Reign of Jafar top 8 deck lists, on the Meta Watch Mondays, but this deck is so cool. And Solo Falcon, you're such a huge Lorcana Goons supporter in the Discord. I couldn't help but just, want to give you a shout out, because I don't really see Amber Sapphire players, rising up right now. It's a very interesting deck. I think the combo you really want to do is be able to play down in New Orleans as quickly as possible with your Prince Naveen over here, right? It even rhymes. Naveen, New Orleans. It lets you play a 6-cost character right off the bat, like Judy Hopth, maybe a Gaston, maybe a Kit Cloud Kicker instead, because you do have the 1-cost Kit Cloud Kicker as well, so you can shift this character on turn 3 and sing you're down in New Orleans, or sing a card like Let It Go.
Yeah, the value you get from Naveen, New Orleans, Gaston into the next play you need for the turn 5 is so
Yes.
good. You can even
Yes.
find your Let It Go, and you can find the removal you need, or you can play it down to Mufasa and just have a lot more bigger bodies in play. And I do have to mention the Ludwig von Drake. This is going to be able to rip a card from the opponent's hand if it's not a character. And if it ever is banished, it goes into the inkwell. So it's a little bit of an acceleration. It doesn't immediately gain that ink, but you can pressure the opponent. You can just turn it sideways forever. And if your opponent's a little worried about you having extra lore, then they're going to have to give you extra ink in the place of that. So it's a nice trade-off, and you're able to just get these bodies down a little bit quicker. And it's always good to see the Kit Cloud Kicker unchosenable unless it's a challenge.
There's some pretty neat lines you can go into with this deck. It seems very straightforward, right? But there are some scenarios where you end up using New Orleans to play a character that doesn't cost 6, like Mufasa, Grandma Tala, or there's even a cool scenario where if you have 2 down in New Orleans in your hand, right, you can shift into the kit, you sing it, you can find a Naveen, you can play the Naveen, and Naveen can sing the second one, right? So you can go mega wide with this deck by turn 3 if you really want to. And I think that's what makes it low key kind of powerful. But huge shout out Solo Falcon. Hopefully you can take down a set championship with this deck list very soon. That seems very possible in my opinion. But yeah, thanks again for everyone who's dropped deck lists in our Discord for the set championship season so far. All right, Zach Stone, we're going to practice some games real quick with the Panic at the Diablo deck. This is the Amethyst Emerald deck list we looked over a little while ago. Our opening hand is Elsa Fitzspirit, Sudden Chill, Diablo Devoted Herald, which is the shift character, Friends on the other side, Double Genie, and a Panic, which is a very strong card. Now, I believe we have more of a discard engine in this deck list, if I'm not mistaken. So I kind of want to just keep certain cards that I think are going to be pretty reliable going in blind, right? We don't know what we're playing against. And I feel like the most reliable cards to keep is really just going to be the Diablo shift, or maybe even, but I don't want to keep a Genie too because it's uninkable. What do you think, though?
I think what we're going to also want to look for is the Diablo 1 drops, and we do play 8 of them, unlike just the green one. But I think we're going to keep the friends. Let's, 1, keep an action in case we do find the 1 drop, and 2, if we find another action and the 1 drop, then we can sing friends on the next turn and get some more cards.
All right, so we're going to put everything else back, keep friends, and shift Diablo in case, we do have that possible target. And we did not see a 1-cost Diablo. However, we opened up another friends, a Sudden Chill, Elsa, Wrong Lever, and a Crab. Very interesting. It's kind of a slower hand to start off with, unfortunately. No one cost, and our only two cost is a song. But I think we're gonna go ahead and ink one of these friends on the other side, or this wrong lever. It might be this wrong lever because this is more of a card that's probably not gonna resolve anytime soon.
I'm more than likely going to ink the wrong lever. I don't think we need to ink any of the friends on the other sides. I think we need as much card draw as we can get. If this isn't an aggro deck, we can certainly still win. So um, I don't necessarily think we're out. We do find the one drop Diablo on the following turn, which although it does
Very
feel
unfortunate.
bad,
Yeah.
it's doable.
Mhm.
It's doable.
Yep. Yep.
So we saw them. What did we see them ink? A Maui Hero to all. So we
Yes.
saw Maui and we saw Popsicle.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
red blue. I don't think we're gonna need the Elsa anytime soon.
Yeah.
And of course we got to play the one cost Diablo now that we found it.
Yep. I mean,
Just
at
a
least we
turn too
found it
late,
though. At least we found a
but we
card.
but we would have had to pass if we didn't find something. So
Mhm.
we will pass with this.
This is way better than passing with nothing. So that's the thing about Lorcana or card games in general. It's very easy to get tilted. It's very easy to feel like, oh, I lost this game. My hand sucks, right? But you never really know. So they're gonna go ahead and ink and play a Sapphire Coil. They inked a Scrooge McDuck. So we know we're playing against the item version of Ruby Sapphire. So probably not a DKP list. I think this is more of a item variant. So they're probably gonna be playing some workshops. I wouldn't be surprised if they're playing every copy of Sisu possible because they have the Sapphire Coil. And this can kind of be a tough matchup for us sometimes, right, Sackstone?
Yes, can be. Over we have the Diablo, so that can be a good start. But they have a lot of more ways to remove this Diablo with the Daring Visitor Sisu and some extra brawls. So we did find another action, and it's the pull the lever. So we can go ahead and discard that. Make sure our wrong levers will be live for the remainder of the game, and we can sing friends on the other side too. And I like being able to draw. No, do not quest. You will sing friends on the other side and draw some cards before we even get to ink. So I like this a lot.
Oh, I
We
like that
found a wrong
combo,
lever.
wombo
Yeah.
combo. Yeah, I was a little worried that we inked one, but it doesn't seem like that was much to worry about. We are playing a ratio of 2-3, so this is our only other wrong lever left in the deck. But I think this is fine. We have a card that's going to be able to out their big bodies potentially, and if we don't need it, we'll get rid of it. But now, where do you follow up with this, Zach? Do you want to set up another character? Maybe hard. I feel like playing a crab is where I want to go here. I want to play characters against this deck, as many as possible, because we have a lot of ways to refill our hand anyways.
As much as I can understand where you're coming from, I think we need some more cards.
Okay.
I think what we're looking to do is play like a genie next turn if we find it. So I actually like inking the it sounds interesting though, because we can like sing the friends with like the crab.
That's
next
what I was
turn
thinking.
in case
Yeah. Play crab, sing friends next turn.
Yeah, we can. It's just like I'm
I
not
think
too
that's
sure
better.
how much.
That's better to find Genie, in my opinion. If we really want to find Genie, I think that's how we do it.
What am I expecting them to do on the following turn? Are they just going to want to deal with Diablo if they have the answer? More than likely. I'm just a little concerned of our inking here because let's ink the Bruno, and
Yeah.
I guess we can play crab. It's
Okay.
actually not that bad.
I like that. I in this scenario, it's a hard matchup. There's a lot to consider. We're gonna pass. We're gonna draw a card every time they draw a card off the Diablo. That's fine. I think this is cool because we're getting the ink. Oh no, there it is. Just like you said it. Sapphire Coil ink hit our shift Diablo. Sisu Daring Visitor banishes it immediately. Very tough. We kind of figured that was gonna happen though. Next up, we draw into a Panic and an Ursula off of our Diablo draw. So we have a way to stop a Be Prepared when that turn comes. I think that's pretty decent. And we drew a 4-cost, not Genie, but we did draw a 4-cost character. How you feeling, Zach? I do still want to sing this friends on the other side.
I definitely think we sing it, but I'm also gonna just kind of bring up that the item list doesn't really play any songs. To be honest, I'm gonna just ink that Ursula. I am gonna play any games. It's not worth the body. It's just going to be banished by the big Sisu later on.
True. We did draw a second one anyway, so it's definitely gonna go into Eagle now. I think the item list plays B prep though. Like I'm pretty sure they play B prep. I feel like I've lost to the item list many times because of Be Prepared. But I mean, it's gonna be hard to really snipe out of the hand. I think that is the only song it plays though.
It's me just trying to play as correct as possible, and I'm just going to assume my opponent's doing the same thing and that is just not playing any songs in this list. So that's why I would always ink the Ursula. I wouldn't want to waste it as a card to deploy. I don't think getting the hand knowledge is worth it. Like some do pay B prep, but that like we're gonna ink one and we have the option to save another one. If that's the case, they can't even play B prep right now.
That way, we're going to ink one no matter what. I do disagree, though. A lot of item lists play B prep. I don't know where you're getting this notion that they don't play it. A lot of lists play B prep. Like it's a very common card in the item lists. But let's go ahead and ink the Ursula, one of the Ursulas, because we have two of them anyway. What is the actual play, though? Like, do you just play the Panic here on the 4 to utilize the 4? It doesn't feel right either.
No play seems good right now.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I agree. Like, I definitely agree.
It almost might be worth it to wrong lever the Sisu here. That way they don't have like shift lines. I don't think we have a way of dealing with it anyway with our cards.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing that we can do to spend our turn. Because again, I don't like Ursulane here. If we don't do that and we deploy the Panic, we're not gonna. We're literally at 0 in the race, so it's not gonna help us like close out the gap anytime soon.
That's true. That's true. I do like getting rid of his shift line. So we'll wrong lever. We'll do that. We'll pull the lever to the bottom. There you go. There you go. And we already inked. That's going to be the rest of our turn. Ruby Sapphire. And here comes the Maurice's Workshop. They're going to pop a Popsicle to play Bell. And they inked a Hideaway this turn. We see a 1-cost Diablo off the top. We're now at 5 ink. They only have 3 cards in hand, which is kind of nice for us. There's some scenarios where they mess up their sequencing, they overplay their stuff, and we can snipe out the cards in their hand. But it's kind of rough, man. We have a lot of cards that just aren't doing what I think needs to be done right now. As like lame as it sounds, I would just want to play the Cricky. I don't really see like. Oh, no, you could also just play Diablo Panic. Oh, I don't like Diablo Panic either.
No, so this is actually probably where I'd play the Ursula here.
Okay.
Because like you said, if they are playing B prep, we rip the B prep. We have Set and Shoulder up the next card in their hand. Like we can get them down to 1 card, which is kind of what we wanted to do if there's a Maurice's Workshop in play. So we might benefit from just seeing their.
Okay, so let's go ahead and see what they have in their hand. 3 cards and B prep and double Maurice's Workshop. Kind of annoying that it's just triple Maurice's Workshop, but he doesn't really have much other than that. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Double Workshop off the hand. We did go ahead and hit the B prep.
I would probably just like play the Set and Chill and rip another Maurice's Workshop out of the hand.
Yeah.
And ink the Panic and play the Diablo. I don't think I'd quest with the Crab. Play around the Sapphire Coil a little bit better.
True. Yeah.
I
already forgot about that.
There.
Yeah, that's a very important thing. Like not questing when you don't need to. There's just a scenario where your opponent just inks a card and then they get the value off of that trade for no reason. Oh my goodness. Double 1-cost item off the top. Must be nice. Okay, another Panic.
Yeah.
Not doing what
and now we can play the Cricky to trade Diablo into Bell and get a card.
That was clean.
That's that was why I also felt like it was fine to play the Ursula, because we get the extra body in play in case he did
Cricky.
have something coming down like a Maui or something. I don't know. We knew the card. He couldn't really play it.
I like that. I like that play, Zach. I like that sequencing. I just want to like take a little moment and be like, that was like very clean. Setting up the Diablo with Ursula followed by a Cricky there. Our opponent took the bait. They quested. I think that's how you want to play Lorcana. Very nice. Because at first I was like, do we just play the Cricky? Doesn't seem worth it. This play was a lot nicer. And then the Ursula, coming through right there. We don't know the 2 cards in her hand. Do we ink?
We know one. It's Workshop, but we just quest with all. We just pass.
You're right. We know the Workshop.
And yeah, we don't ink. There's nothing to ink. We do have a 7-cost card in our deck, but we probably wouldn't really want to play it right now anyway.
Yeah.
We'd rather wait for them to just high roll with the Maurice's Workshops and get a lot of cards. But you saw them draw a card and pass.
Yep. What I really like is that they haven't been setting up like any Fishbone Quills or anything like that. So we know if they top deck some uninkable cards, they're going to be kind of stuck with them. And we developed this Cricky already, so they're not near Big Sisu. We got rid of and Zach, now I don't even fear Big Sisu. You're so right. Wrong levering the little Sisu. Now I feel very confident that a shift Sisu's not coming down anytime soon.
So I'd play the Panic here, and now just because you're going to be questing for 5 next turn, you quest for 7. Now it goes to 14. You put yourself in a good lethal range, and you have Bruno in case things do get a little tricky. If he somehow has a hybrid build and plays like a half shark, and you have an answer. Can't utilize the Vital Sphere right away, and he's gonna have to ink a card so you have a chance to rip it out of the hand.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
That might be the lie. Yeah.
We're getting spicy here. We could have just played that for free, or played that for 3 instead of for free. Doesn't really matter who you give the challenger to.
That's true. They decided to pop their own Sapphire coil
Ooh,
just to play
they
that.
re-readied it.
Re-ready with the Shield of
Ooh.
Virtue, swing multiple times. Oh, and
They
they
didn't
have
get the Cricky. They didn't get rid of the Cricky.
They
That's
did not get rid of
interesting.
Cricky. Yep. And so now we have some decent options, Zach Stone. They left themselves with 1 card in hand, just like you said they might do. We did not ink the Sudden Chill, just like you told me not to. Zach Stone, I feel like you're setting us up for some glory. Are we gonna sing this Sudden Chill or just like hard cast it? What you think?
We're just gonna hard cast it here.
Okay.
We're just gonna hard cast it.
Yeah.
We're gonna put him
there
in
it
between
is.
a rock and a hard.
Big Sisu out of the hand.
We're gonna put him in between a rock and a hard place here. We're gonna play the Diablo, and we're just gonna quest with the Panic and quest with the Cricky.
Oh, you don't clear the belt? Really?
Yeah. This is kind of where I'm thinking, right?
Okay.
They're going to have to if they got rid of their Sapphire Coil, they're gonna have to trade into the Panic. There's no reason not to just get the lore here. Value trading with the Cricky doesn't really set us up for the game we want to be in, and I think right here this is where you just want to like turn your guy sideways as much more than ever. So we go to 12. We don't even think past it. Again, we have the Bruno. We have a way to deal with anything that they play as far as a big threat. And their bell is just going into the Panic right now. Yeah, if they have nothing else to do, they'll just quest first and then they'll replay. If they draw the Sisu, that's them just getting pretty fortunate. But we can deal with it here. If we're scared of them top decking the shift one, we can just play the Bruno. And
now we just play it. Now we just play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the only big difference there would have been like potentially keeping 2 characters, but we would not have been at 15. We would have been 3 lore behind. So we are potentially giving our opponent more and more turns to come back into the game, right? So and I get where you're coming from. I think in this game state, what you just want to do is just finish the game. There was no reason for us to make that trade. I totally agree. That's another great thing about card games on Lorcana, man. Knowing when to quest, knowing when to take those challenges. Ooh, do we get the card? Did we get the last card out of his hand?
We inked the Bruno. We inked the Bruno.
Yep.
We inked the Bruno.
Okay. So we're gonna ink this Bruno. We're gonna hard cast Sudden Chill for our last 2 ink after drawing it off a genie, and we hit another Shift Sisu. Let's go. Those Shift Sisus can be very detrimental to our Emerald Amethyst strategy. So Zach, I gotta give you credit, man. A wrong levering the little Sisu and then hitting 2 Sisus out the hand. Oh, we're cooking. We're cooking here. Huge shout out to all the Emerald Amethyst enjoyers. This deck is good. This deck is strong. I feel like at first we had a very, very wonky hand. We weren't very happy. We were making some, interesting decisions, and it ended up working out for us. It led us to a victory against the AI. It's an AI. They be making some questionable decisions, but I think for the most part, a lot of that victory was the decisions that we made together. No?
Yeah. You did chime in on the Ursula, and felt a little bit better inking one when we had a second one anyway. But yeah, holding the Cricky was for sure going to be the decision that I would have made 100% of the time. You have to kind of understand like cards value.
It was a game changer.
You gotta get your little bits of value here and there. You got to get every little bit of it. So it is a big body. It is going to quest for 3, but why not give one of these characters extra strength 1 turn to just get rid of something 1 turn?
Add on to the value. Add on to the value. I like that.
Yeah. So overall, it was a very good way of just showcasing what the Emerald Amethyst deck can do. Again, shout out to Anthony for taking down his set champs with this list.
And that is going to be all for this video, my Lorcana Goons. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end and watching. We hope you enjoyed this content. Remember to come back every Monday for a Meta Watch video and Fridays for our Market Watch video, where you can learn about the prices, and Monday you can learn about the meta game. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. On Thursday, Zach Stone and I want to get some games going with some of these deck lists during our Thursday live stream, so make sure to stay tuned for that.
Yeah, so I honestly can't wait. I'm looking forward to playing with your guys' decks on our live stream, and honestly, It's a fun time. Hope you guys are able to watch that and be a part of the madness that's going to go on. And let us know if we're making some plays that you guys have any comments or concerns on, or if we went over any of these lists. Talk about any of your experiences and your set champs in the comments down below. We really do like that when you guys leave our comments and they're just talking about your experiences or appreciating the fact that we're mentioning your videos. But we really appreciate you for this deck list. Honestly, again, thank you guys so much. And if you're not in our Discord, join with our link down below and submit your deck list in next week's set champs. And who knows, maybe we'll play with your deck on our Meta Watch video. But until then, Lorcana Goons, stay tuned and we'll see you goons next time.